Get this done. I'm gonna have to move her out of the way. Now, if you notice, I got pins right here, 3 pins. Come on, I got 3 pins. I don't want to go past the 3 pins. I don't want to go past it because I got to sew at the end down there. So now, let me get this straightened out. I've got this right here, and I've got 2 down in here and 2 down in here. So now we have right in here, I want to go down on this side and then down on the gray side. And we're only going to do half of it. We are not going to do the other half because of this down here. I'm trying to protect this as much as I can. So I'm going to go and we're going to start sewing down here. And what I want to do is I want to go like this right here across this one so we don't sew from here. We only sew from here because of these being like that. I wonder if that would hurt it. Probably not. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to go ahead and start from here. And I'd have to go back and do that one to make it do that. Alright, let me go get my thing.
On verse 36, and the king shall do according to his will. That's why I'm very clever. I called him the willful king, because he does according to his will. Now, 100 out of 100 dispensational Bible teachers are going to tell you that this is the first beast of Revelation 13. I'm going to show you that's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And let's just read. It goes on and says in verse 38, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. Yeah, and at that time, and at the time of the end, shall the king of the south push at him, hello, Ji-Jing, and come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen, and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall also enter into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. Now, this would be the modern country of Jordan. And this guy, we're not describing a world ruler here. We're describing a guy that's going to invade Israel, and he's not even going to be able to take even all of the Levant. He's not going to be able to touch what would be the modern nation of Jordan. In verse 42, it says, he shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and silver. Now, that's one you want to watch. And, well, I could go on a big rant, how the dollar's going south, and how all the globalists, they're buying the gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. And it says, this willful king will have power over the treasures of gold and silver, and all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his step. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy, and utterly to make away many. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace. And that word tabernacle there, if you look it up in the Hebrew, it means a really, really nice portable tent. Like these sultans you see in the movies, that they have these really elaborate tents that are nicer than a lot of houses. But It says he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. He's going to go right to the Temple Mount. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. He is going to get smacked down. He's going to go into Israel. He's going to tear them up. He's going to go right up to the Temple Mount. He's going to, and quite possibly, set up some kind of a portable tent there. Who knows? But don't look for the Dome of the Rock to go anywhere. I'll just give you a tip on that. But he's going to come into his end. He dies right here. Now, look at 12:1. And at that time, that shows us timing. At the time the willful king dies, shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the people of thy people, for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was. The great tribulation begins after this guy dies. He can't be the first beast of Revelation 13. It's clear as day. All we have to do is read our Bibles, but yet over and over and over, Daniel 11 is totally misrepresented. And what the preterists say, oh, it's all fulfilled, don't worry, it ain't going to happen. And the pre-tribbers say, well, don't worry, it ain't going to happen until after the rapture, when that beast is revealed. But what we want to understand, it's happening right now. Daniel 11 is straight ahead, it's in her face. These things are unmistakable earmarks. They're just unmistakable signals to us that this is the truth. And more confirmation comes all the time. I'm as convinced about this as I am about anything. There's too much confirmation here.
It's interesting too. There's so many proxies that Iran has been working with up to this point. I think almost all of the wars that are being fought, whether there's little military sects in Syria or whether they're in Palestine, they are all proxy military groups funded by Iran. And what's crazy, you talked about them gathering the gold and silver. They have so much money they've paid, according to one guy that was on a show, Sean Ryan show. He was talking about how they pay people to come over. Them in Saudi Arabia, a couple people pay people that are here in the United States and help fund mosques and do all these different things here. So we have, and just in the last year, not to fearmonger, but we've had millions of military-age men coming over from foreign countries that could very well be part of these proxies. We have an election coming up when historically, when elections come up, at least in the last few years, there has been an uprise in violent incidents, at least within our own borders. And a lot of this stuff, I think that could set off a chain of events, not just there, because the United States is mentioned in their rhetoric too as being an enemy. And I could see the possibility of violence erupting, maybe even worldwide, but at least possibly in the United States as well. What do you think about that?
Well, absolutely. And where'd they get the money from? Thank you, Barack Obama. Yeah. And way back when they had the nuclear treaty, and I can't remember the figure, someone in the chat probably knows, a crazy amount of money that the United States paid Iran to sign that nuclear treaty. The minute Trump got in, he broke the whole thing. Yeah. But I mean, they had a crazy amount of money. And this is such a fact that, something like you see these mosques being built, and they're really big, nice buildings, and they don't have that many people in them. Yeah. Well, these are being bankrolled, and they're being bankrolled right from Saudi Arabia. And of course, we could go on and on. We have Mr. Obama bringing in the refugees from Sudan into Minnesota, and now we've got Mullah Umar up there as a representative. And there's a plan to this. There's a plan. The plan is destroy America. Destroy America. Take it down like Babylon without firing a shot. And this is just another big step. Bankrupt America, $90 billion. Oh, if we don't... one thing about it, all of these wars, if America would quit paying for all of them, we might have a few less wars. That's my silly idea here.
Yeah.
If they want to kill each other, let them pay for it themselves.
It's one of those things that when you look at it from a perspective of somebody who's trying to make sense of everything, it doesn't make sense.
No.
There's nothing on paper that'll lead you to be like, oh, I get why this is happening, or I get why we're spending billions of dollars on this country when our country is really just going to dumps, and how much debt we're in. I mean, if I ran my household in the same way our country runs its pocketbook, if I run our pocketbook, my family's pocketbook in the same way that our country's running the pocketbook, and then I let's say I'm in debt for whatever amount of money, and I only make not even half of that money already. I'm already not making it. Then I decide to go and help David. I'm going to send $10,000 to you, David, instead of paying my own debts. Instead of taking care of my own house, I'm going to send you 10,000 so you can get a brand new rifle or whatever. It just doesn't make sense financially to anybody that has a head on their shoulders, and one can only imagine what the real motive behind it all is. I mean, I could sit here and think about what is actually going on or say it even, but it doesn't mean that I know for a fact, but it looks a certain way. I don't think these guys are stupid. So if they're not stupid, there must be another reason behind all of this. And I think we all know, but it's just amazing that people are looking at this thing and they're truly waiting for some kind of theater presentation. It's almost like a WCW event for people. But when the bodies start hitting the floor and people start seeing blood for the first time, they start seeing people that they know brutally murdered, I think it's going to start sinking in that it is theater, but it's very violent and bloody theater at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and the reason I say theater is because it's all been written before, right here in the scriptures. It's been written. The script has been written, and it's being acted out right in front of our face.
We got the left-hand path, and here again we go back to the Book of Enoch. We got the left or second asterisk, excuse me, with the two heads and the eagle in the middle, the right head eating the left, and we've got the left-hand path in America and the right-hand path. They'll fight like cats and dogs, but they all want the final agenda. They all want to have that final New World Order, but they're going to fight like cats and dogs over who runs it.
Yeah.
And it's a minute, and I'll just say this because I just got to. But here we got the supposed MAGA Republicans, and they're going to hold the line on this spending bill. Bless their hearts. Now, who comes along and comes up with the idea? Well, let's give it to Mr. Zelensky. We'll make it alone.
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump. Then they bring the Speaker Johnson down, and we'll make it alone. Like they're ever going to pay back a dime of it? Really?
Yeah.
Like when they're tired of shooting their cannons off, they're going to think about us good old Americans and write us a check. Gotta be kidding. Gotta be kidding.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Trump carried the ball across the line for him.
Yeah, and not only was it written about in the scripture that this is going to happen, there's also a letter from Albert Pike to Mazzini. For some of you guys have heard this letter before. It was in London Museum for a very long time. Some say it's still there. And this is the letter. I just want to show you guys this because it foretells the first two world wars that have already happened. They hadn't happened at the time. But then it tells the third world war that we are actually experiencing. This is what I believe this is what is getting ready to take place. And this is what we're seeing in the Bible. So here we go. Check this out. And First World War, he says, must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia. And this was the Prince Michael, what was the names of these people? I can't remember right now. These were the palace they had in St. Petersburg. They had this beautiful palace. The Romanovs had these beautiful palaces, and some people believed that this was the end of Tartaria. Some people believed that these kingships that were such predominant at the time, when the communists came in and took that over, this was World War One. This is when we saw the Bolsheviks. We saw a lot of different stuff. What else can we say about World War One, David? I know you weren't around during that, but what else can we say, and how accurate this is about World War One?
Well, it's absolutely accurate. This was the rise of the Bolshevik Revolution. and it was also the beginning of the Balfour the Declaration, which began to pave the way for the nation of Israel to become a state. So this is absolutely spot on. There ain't no doubt about it that this happened, and this letter was definitely in the British Museum, and I've got a lot of confirmation on this, and I have one of the books I have is by a Roman Catholic cardinal from Argentina that talked about going there. This book was written before it was taken out, and he goes there and talks about this letter. Wow. And yeah, and now it's been taken off display. I wonder why. But yeah, many people read this and confirmed that it was there. It most definitely was.
All right, so the Second World War, we have everybody knows about World War II. I'm just going to read this to you because it's interesting the way it's worded here. It said it must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final social cataclysm. Now let's go on to number 3 here. This is where we are at as we speak right now. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the agentur of the Illuminati, between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will become constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We're seeing that right now. We shall unleash the nihilist, the atheist, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm, which in all its horror will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, origin of savagery, and of the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens, obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries, will exterminate those destroyers of civilization, and the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an idea, but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. So we see this agenda not only laying out the last war, but what they expect to come out of this war. And we've seen through the Scottish Rite their motto, order out of chaos. We see that there are occult teachings that speak on this Hegelian dialect where you can have two sides opposing each other, as David was talking about, the right-handed path and the left-handed path. We see this agenda unleashed onto America and other countries. David, just talk a little bit about this statement here and how huge that this agenda has been played out that we can see.
All right. And
well, it looks like I can't use the table no more. Mama Cat took it over. She's taken over that. Alright, we are on this one. I'm going to go down the side here, and I'm going to skip over, and I'm going to go down the side here, and then here, here, and here, here, and here, and here. And then that way, it'll look like it looks good and all. I think I like it that way. Right down in here, we have the thing. I'm going to stop right here, and then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to do these all the way down and all. Alrighty, let's get started on that.
Try to walk softly here.
Yeah, walk softly. We've got people that get offended and hurt by
and
things.
this is, I guarantee it's going to offend people. There's no doubt that the establishment of Israel in 1948 was a prophetic event. It's something that God allowed, or it wouldn't have happened. But at the same time, when you read here the verbiage of Mr. Pike and Mr. Mazzini, who took over the Illuminati after Adam Weishaupt, you can see that the creation of Israel was the plan of the Illuminati. It was, we could say a lot about the Rothschild involvement in it, but the nation of Israel was created, and Zionism, we talked about C.I. Schofield and how he was financed, this guy that wasn't even paying child support, he belonged to one of the elite clubs there in New York where many millionaire and billionaire Jews went that financed C.I. Schofield. Why would they do that? We talked about the Tavistock Foundation funding dispensationalism and the pre-trib position. Why? Because Zionism will be the flashpoint of the final war. Zionism has to exist for this hatred to continue between the Zionists and the Muslim people. They're both being used as pawns in the game. And for the Israel of God, and I'm not here saying this evening that it's right. Israel has a right to have a country. They have a right to defend themselves. And I'm not saying anything like that, that they don't. But we have to realize that they are not the nation of God just because of their genetics. No. And this is a creation to use as a flashpoint for the final conflict, which we talked about in all of these scriptures tonight and these other confirmations. Right here it is. They tell you their plan right there. And, it might be good for us to believe that they mean what they say. And you can see these first two world wars just as planned. And you can see World War III here, according to the Illuminati plan, it's coming off without a hitch.
That is so true. And David, it is an hour. We've been an hour, and I'm not halfway through some of the stuff that I wanted to bring up. So I'm going to ask you, first off, since you're here and we're live right now, do you want to continue this show? And then I'm going to ask the audience, would you like us to continue? Because this could mean another 30 minutes to an hour. So, David, I want to ask you first, since you kind of have the say since you're here.
Well, I say let's cap it here, and like I say, there's so much here we can talk about to come back and talk about next week, the red heifer. And why don't we see? I just bet there's some people in the chat that might have some questions. Let's maybe take a couple questions and then pick it up and finish it up next week. What do you think?
I think I'm in agreement, because I do have, and it could take more than an hour, the rest of what I presented. I usually try to keep our shows in a certain period of time, because I know that after a certain period of time it does become hard for both of me and David, because after a certain period of time you're not going to get much out of us after that. So
we go 2 hours, I could be starting some new doctrines or something.
Yeah.
But and in all honesty, we present a tremendous amount of documentation, layered spiritual truths, and it's hard to maintain an intensity of focus, not only in teaching it, but also in receiving it. Yeah. So I think it might be good to just take a breath, reflect on this. I know a lot of people say, well, we listened to that 2 or 3 times, and I can understand why. So let's just take a breath and let's just see what's on the mind of the folks in the chat, because I know this is, in these times, it's an uneasiness, and like the other night, right before we recorded, Dean, I goes, well, is this it? Are we going to, are the taters going to roll here? And it didn't. But one of these days, the taters are going to roll.
The taters are indeed going to roll. And,
yes, they are.
And I have to say that I am thankful to be able to present this. And we were going to speak on the red heifer, which I'll just give you guys a little insight into what we're going to be talking about next week when me and David come back and speak on these subjects. But The red heifer sacrifice, something that is started in Numbers 19. You can read about it there, about the sacrifice, about how the ashes were intended to purify the people. And this hasn't been done for thousands of years. This is actually the last time, according to what I've read, the last time it was done was when Herod's temple was built. There's a lot building up to this. There's many different words on this. I don't think it's going to happen on Passover because it's not a normal sacrifice that they would do, and so they wouldn't do that on the Sabbath. I don't think it's going to happen. I think we have time before they're going to do it to be able to do this show. I think that it's important they're going to do it correctly, and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And there's some very powerful people that would love for nothing more than for a temple to be built right there on that mound. And then there's people that would do anything, including possibly shoot missiles towards a site in order to keep that from happening, or maybe even march in to the Temple Mount and set up camp. What do you think, David?
I think that's the teaser right there. I mean, this thing unpacks in all kinds of different directions. And
alrighty, I think that turned out pretty good. I got one little fold right in here. I don't like it, but it's too late now. I already did it. Alright, so I don't know if I have enough room to show these or not, but I'm going to go ahead and go on around the other side with it until I get these done, and that way I can cut off what I need down here and put it at the other end.